There is and always has been this trend of assigning a great amount of reverence for the director's specific vision of a film. A not unwarranted reverence, mind you, but one that is oftentimes deeply misunderstood. The director is undoubtedly an important part of the filmmaking process, but unless it is truly a solo endeavor, everyone else in the process also contributes to the project. What would Star Wars be without the complete overhaul Marcia Lucas performed during the editing process? What would Into the Spider-Verse be without the dozens of animators drawing night and day? What would Taxi Driver be without De Niro's enthralling performance? Sometimes, like in Star Wars' case, a good editor can save a movie. Other times, enough meddling from other members of the team or higher-level executives can ruin one. But ultimately, it's the director's job to wrangle each and every soul to craft what they believe to be the best, and if there's anything wrong with the film, the blame will first be fired at them. Which is why the release of a director's cut is especially interesting. A director being given a second chance is always mired with wild politics. Blade Runner's initial release was ruined by executive meddling, which resulted in numerous cuts and edits. It took 10 years for Ridley Scott to release his director's cut, 15 more for his second, final cut, both of which were much higher regarded than the initial theatrical cuts. In this case, the director's vision of the film was the best for the story. But this slices the other way too. Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola has a very well-regarded theatrical cut, but Coppola, being Coppola, wasn't happy with it, leading to him making Redux, his first director's cut of the film 24 years later. This version added back in almost an hour's worth of footage. Many found this version a clear downgrade with worse pacing throughout. He then revisited the film again in 2019, removing about 20 minutes from Redux, and as his most recent work, Megalopolis, makes a great case for, sometimes the best directors shine the most when they're reined in. Then there are cases like with Lucas and Star Wars, where substantial portions of the films were updated without the director's cut moniker ever being used. Some of Lucas's edits were using pre-existing footage, like inserting Han's initial conversation with Jabba the Hutt back in. The solid majority, like all the new CG animals or the Jedi Rock sequence or the replacement of Yub Nub, were all newly filmed scenes and injected throughout the years. This is less about having a particular vision, and more so that Lucas couldn't stop, continuing with slight edits up to the point where he sold the license to Disney. Some of these edits are laughable. Others were utilized to help connect the original trilogy to the prequels, but in most cases they didn't really need to be there. This is all to say, a director's cut or later releases of a film done by the director all have one thing in common: the director. They are the person responsible for meddling with an already released film. Super Mario Bros. 1993 The Morton and Jankel cut, despite having the two directors' names in the title, is not a director's cut. I reviewed the theatrical cut of Super Mario Bros. A few years back, so please watch that for my full thoughts on the film proper. In short, I can't accurately critique this film because it means so much to me. It is also very good. But is this extended version of the film good? That is a much more interesting question to answer. The Morton and Jankel cut is a product of the Super Mario Bros. Movie Archive team and director/editor/artist Garrett Gilchrist. They put this cut together by extensively utilizing archival footage from a variety of sources, but most notably a VHS rough cut of the film that once belonged to producer Roland Joffe. Due to the rough cut's rough fidelity, the SMBMA team reached out to Gilchrist to clean up the footage as much as possible. He did his best to correct the visuals, fiddle with the audio, and match everything up, adding in just over 20 minutes of scenes back into the film. This resulted in a product that Gilchrist and the team were proud of. To quote the archive.org description, Gilchrist feels that this is a superior version of the film, end quote. That is a laughable statement, but I do respect the sentiment. The work that went into this extended version of the film is nothing to scoff at, and Gilchrist is right to be proud of what he achieved, but this is also a tangibly worse movie than the original. First, let me describe the process of watching this version. For long stretches, it is the DVD/VHS cut of the film. Then, at the very beginning or end of specific shots, the quality of the video drops precipitously, a timestamp appears in the bottom third, and usually the audio degrades to tin can quality.
What are you doing? That was $31!
Coupons! I need coupons, you... Ow! Ow! Ow!
And a recovered portion of the scene is then delivered. That is what the team largely means by restoring cut content. The original editors of the film correctly deduced that the audience did not need to see the Mario Bros. Van drive around the street corner, that cutting this scene out would improve the pacing without harming the audience's comprehension. Gilchrist and the SMBMA team said that any footage not in the film is wasted. They put it all back in. I have two opinions about this methodology. As an act of love for this film, as an archival project, as a fun experiment reconstructing an earlier version, I wholeheartedly support this endeavor. Academically, it is fascinating to see how the original team trimmed the film. I really did love being able to see an insert shot that was removed from the final cut because another take was used a few seconds later. As an act of restoring the movie to the original director's intent, these inclusions were objectively awful. Pacing a movie is always a delicate task. Only the most bold of filmmakers can successfully linger in a scene before the next action occurs. The Evangelions or the Stalkers of the world, films that challenge the audience to sit and empathize alongside the characters. The Super Mario Bros. Movie from 1993 is not a film that needs drawn-out pacing. It is an action comedy that needs to quickly usher the viewer to the next sequence, and every extension of a scene only drags out that already wrought pacing. But scene extensions were only the majority of what the team did to the film. There were a few notable examples of full scenes that were injected back into the narrative. The earliest example is when the bros lose their first gig in the film. In the theatrical cut, the plumbers find Scapelli's van out front, then the movie cuts to Daisy. In this extended version, the bros confront the Scapelli goons before ultimately losing out on the gig. Like all the scene extensions, this was not necessary to convey the point. The original film makes it clear as day that the Mario Bros. Lost the contract to Scapelli. Seeing it happen wasn't necessary. But this scene is important, because a couple of the trading cards released in conjunction with the film are based on it. One with Mario stating, "Nobody touches my tools," a line that only occurs in this scene.
Hey! Nobody touches my tools.
Another depicting the goons themselves, and I think that is great. The next major reintroduced scene is in the de-evolution chamber. In the original, after Koopa Goomba fights Toad, he himself is briefly strapped by the Mario Bros. As they make their escape. In the extended version, Koopa first notices one of his own henchmen sneeze. Being a germaphobe, Koopa punishes the slightly sick sycophant by goopifying him in that same machine prior to the bros escaping. This does solidify the concept of being de-evolved into goop, which is Koopa's ultimate fate, and introduces why Koopa slips while being strapped by the bros. As far as its inclusion in the extended cut, I didn't mind it, but it was far from necessary. Also, the pacing in the scene was rough. The time between line deliveries needed to be cut down a bit. The final major cut moment I touched upon in my original review. Just after Mario retrieves the meteorite piece from Big Bertha, the original film has Marva Andor and a legion of Goombas arriving to arrest Iggy, Spike, and the plumbers. In this extended version, Iggy and Spike instead perform one of the worst raps one could devise. The line, "King Koopa, the party poopa," is repeated numerous times.
Place. Iggy and Spike will set the pace. Koopa! The party poopa! The poopa scoopa! It's a crying shame!
Sometimes you cut scenes because they mess up the pacing. Other times because they're not wholly necessary. This scene was cut because it is actually bad. Even the creators of Super Mario Bros. 1993, a movie infamous for how maligned it was, had the foresight to leave this moment where it belonged, in the Sniffit garbage truck. There is only one scene I do agree with Gilchrist and the SMBM A-Team with. It's a fairly minor cutaway gag, but its removal did actually make the final film worse. Just before and throughout the climax of the film, a running joke is introduced. Koopa orders a pizza. Later on, he asks, why hasn't it been delivered yet?
Where's my pizza?
In the original film, the final gag is him receiving a call, "Sir, your pizza is here," with him responding, "Not now."
Sir, your pizza's here. Not now.
But one more scene was filmed. After the king is goopified, the pizza delivery car drives by, tossing the finished za on what remains of the tyrant.
Eat this!
And that is a much better punchline. There were also a few cases of extended dialogue or moments. The car chase was extended quite a bit. The mud bath scene with Koopa and Marva has more before Iggy and Spike arrive. Another scene of the plumbers meandering through the desert wishing for their death was included.
Get this here. Pick up this rock. Let him just kill me here. Go ahead. Just kill me.
As well as one additional moment of Iggy and Spike goofing around in their dune buggy. The kidnapped women are given slightly more screen time. Ultimately, pretty much all of the footage cut from the theatrical release of Super Mario Bros. Was the correct choice. It quickens the pacing while reducing redundancies in the storytelling. The extended film, despite being an incredibly fascinating artifact, is not the superior version. While I did have a great time watching it, that is mainly because I am a twisted individual who loves watching this movie. And the added context of seeing what the filmmakers decided to leave out is a great cinematic exercise. This movie was not substantially ruined by extending it, nor was it improved upon. My biggest gripe is with the narrative framing by the SMBMA team. This is not the Morton Jankel cut of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Neither were involved in this process, and there's no way to tell how close this would even be to their vision. This version was crafted mainly using the single instance of a rough cut that the team was able to get their hands on. This rough cut likely would have been created and sent out well after Morton and Jankel were barred from the film, well after the reshoots were integrated into the narrative. The rough cut is a great artifact, but it is not the honest vision of the two directors. It is an early product of the most competent people on the original film's team, the editors. A true director's cut will likely never exist, but for the Super Mario Bros. 1993 superfan, this extended version is easily worth a viewing, for academic purposes at the very least. Thank you so much for watching. Every couple of years I need to remind everyone to watch Super Mario Bros. 1993, so you should do that now. And since the Super Mario Galaxy movie is out, what's your favorite Mario movie? Let me know in the comments. While you're here, maybe you can follow me on my social medias. I'm at Mario8th everywhere. Links to that and the extended edition of this movie are linked in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.